Blessings. My name is Jere B. I am the EntreMusician, at least that's what they keep telling me, and so are you. And so is this incredible musician that we have here to my right. His name is Hughes. We, some time ago, did a video. We had a conversation, I should say. And we've been having several conversations, but that's beside the point. We recorded a conversation, and we couldn't stop because getting deeper and deeper and deeper into this thing called the EntreMusician. We had to do video number 2. This is it. We're going to learn so much today because he is a wealth of information over 3 decades in the business and just continuing to plow through what it means to be on the track. Before we do that, though, let's do this. Vocal. All of our videos are being sponsored by them, and they are the great people who created this product, which is the only beverage on the planet designed to soothe, refresh, and restore your voice. If you talk all day or sing all night, you want to get yourself some vocal, you can go to drinkvocal.com to learn more. Now, I don't know how we can pick up from where we left off because we were talking about all kinds of things concerning this music industry. But how you doing again, my friend?
Wonderful to be with you, Jere B. Yes, it was a blast. I didn't realize it was 30 minutes until you said something. It was great. It's great talking with someone that really understands the whole thing. You know, it's just a blessing to speak with you and share, you know, what's worked for me and what hasn't. And I appreciate you asking me to do that. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate your time. Absolutely. The 2 words we used were at the start of the other interview was always working, and that's what you are. Yet we did not talk about the Hughes trio, but let's recap for a quick second. You started at 8 years old on the organ and the tuba. You were grooving to your dad's community band, which he was a musician. You didn't tell me what he played. What was his instrument?
He played tuba and bass. So I sat beside him playing tuba growing up, and then in his band, he played bass and I played keyboards.
Oh my goodness. And so it started from there. You always knew you were going to be a musician. And from that time on, you enlisted, you traveled with the Army, correct?
Yes.
Am I doing good so far? So you traveled with the Army and got out, and then you put a band together, the Ambassadors. What's the name of the band?
Yeah, I was in the Army's Jazz Ambassadors. It's the Army's premier touring jazz ensemble called the Jazz Ambassadors.
Yes, Jazz Ambassadors. And then after you got out, take it from there.
Okay, after I got out, and the reason that I got out was that again, as we talked about in the first segment, is that it was one of those decisions that, okay, at that point I had 13 years in the military, 7 more years till I could retire and at least have some form of a pension for the rest of my life. But I was getting, because of my experience with the Jazz Ambassadors, I was playing these different festivals all around the world. I was getting phone calls to go out and play on my own. I guess because they featured me as a soloist, folks liked what I did, and all of a sudden I'm getting calls. And you know, at one point I said to this one festival promoter, I said, "You do know that I'm in the Jazz Ambassadors?" He says, "Yeah, that's why I'm calling you. I saw you with the Jazz Ambassadors." I said, "Well, you know, I'm still in the Army Jazz Ambassadors and I tour pretty much with them." He goes, "Yeah, well, if you ever change your mind." And that's when I went, okay. And again, we talk about decisions. At that point you go, do I spend another 7 years and get that retirement? And will these opportunities still be there? And I came to the conclusion, plus my kids were at a point there where I felt that I needed to get off the road for the amount of time that band was on the road. We do a 40-day spring and fall tour and a 30-day summer tour. So I was gone and my kids were both in high school at the time, and I thought, I need to get off the road and be there, you know. So I did, and started playing a bunch of festivals with my trio, and the rest, we just keep moving from there.
So what year did you start the Hughes trio? From that, how many years elapsed from the Ambassadors, you getting off the road, being that family guy, doing the music, and then the trio starts up? Yeah.
Well, I've always had a trio. When I was in high school, it was an organ trio. And then when I was in the Army band in the Washington, D.C. area before I went to Korea, I had an organ trio then. When I went to Korea, the group was a trio called Just Friends, and then we added a singer, a Korean vocalist, and it became Just Friends was a quartet. When I came back to the United States for 4 years between my first stint in the Army and the Jazz Ambassadors, I had a trio called Alternative in the Central Pennsylvania area. And then when I went into the Jazz Ambassadors in 1989, I started essentially the Fred Hughes trio. So I was playing in the DC area a lot with my trio while I was still in the Jazz Ambassadors.
Now, was Frank Russo the drummer then in the very first iteration of the trio?
No. That first iteration of the trio was a bass player by the name of Tom Williams and a drummer by the name of Keith Kilgo. Keith Kilgo was one of the founding members of Blackbirds and Walking in Rhythm and Rockery Park and all those great tunes. Yeah. So, from playing with him, and, I started immersing myself, thanks to him and many other folks like him, in the DC scene, getting to meet the right people and all that. And so, again, that combination of timing where all of a sudden between the work that the trio was already getting and the promise of work because of the phone calls I was getting, it was like, okay, I'm sorry, but I need to leave and move on to the next chapter. So.
Absolutely. Now, so you're on over 30 recordings. You have 8 albums, as I have been able to count, from Fred Hughes Trio.
Correct.
Matrix really dominating 2017 and being one of the top 5 jazz albums. So, what was the journey from the first album to Matrix to, I'm sure 2019 is just going to kill you. You got something in the works, I'm sure of it. But what was that to be able to be a downbeat and to chart the way you did and to see Matrix explode?
There it really becomes about teamwork. I realized that I couldn't do it myself. I had tried the previous records, and it actually started with the Christmas record that I said, look, if I'm going to do this, I need to put together a team. And I was very fortunate in that this one radio promotion team kept contacting me, and they just kept, to the point that I actually called, the name of the production company is Carry On Productions, and I called Carrie Gaffney and I said, look, here's some of my concerns. She didn't hang up on me, and she said a lot of really good things, and I let that all stew for a while. And when I was ready for the Christmas record to come out, I called her and I said, look, okay, so I'm going to ask you another question. Maybe you'll hang up on me this time. And I said, we're putting together a Christmas record. Would you promote it? And she said, jazz radio really doesn't do a lot with holiday offerings. She said, but send me this stuff and we'll listen to it and we'll see what's going on. She listened to it. She said, yes, let's do this. I'm game. I will push it as much as I can. So she pushed it. It did well. That particular record ended the end of the year in the top 5 slot, even though it was a Christmas record, so in radio airplay. So I was very fortunate with that. And then when Matrix came out, she took the ball and ran with that too. Now here's with the entrepreneurial side of things, here's where just recently, 3 weeks ago, we did a concert in Memphis, Tennessee, Germantown Performing Arts Center. And the gentleman that had contacted me, I was curious. His initial contact with me was, been following your career for a while. We love your music. I love your music. And I think you'd be perfect for our concert series. Would you consider coming down? We worked out a deal and we went down. And the night before the concert, we played for a sponsorship party, basically a meet and greet for people that were helping sponsor the concert. And I was really excited to meet this gentleman and ask him, so how is it that you found us? And he said, because of this gentleman. And at that point, the program director for the radio station in Memphis had walked in the room. Malvin Massey was his name. Malvin, wonderful guy, that's a story on its own about some of the things you and I are discussing about radio promotion. But anyways, he said he had your Christmas record, he was playing it, and then you came out with Matrix, and he called me and said, you got to get these people on this concert series. So again, doing some of the right things. Yes, it costs money to put the right people on your team if you're going to put things out there, you know, as we discussed before. 350 CDs, 300 CDs that you send out that you're not going to see any money from, you know, it's just going to go. Postage to get it out there, and then paying your team for their time to really do their job. And this is one of those situations where that entire thing took a while for it to manifest itself, but it manifested itself. So yeah, you know, that old adage of sometimes it costs money to make money is very true when it comes to that.
That's true, and that's why you wake up every morning and you have that plan, and you're going, okay, well, we have to do this to make that happen, because this needs to happen to get that on point, because I need to be in Memphis for the jazz festival.
Yep.
Really interesting.
Yeah, I can't turn the camera, but there's a whiteboard over here on the side, and that's my planning. Because I found that if I put it up there, it starts manifesting itself.
That's
You
right.
don't, if you know, you got to work that plan. You got to put that plan up there, and you got to work it.
Talk about that. Talk about that a little bit, because there are younger Fred Hughes who are out there and who have the chops, who, you know, gone through the training, but it's that entrepreneurial side that they're kind of missing, because a lot of us can be off balance where it's all music, but the whiteboard, that plan, that looking at the month ahead, planning out the year. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Well, it really does go to everything that we do, including something that I said earlier about taking a club gig for free.
Yeah.
You know, all of that is part of the planning process. And again, we go back to something I said earlier, in that I was very fortunate to have some great mentors, and the best one I had was my dad. My dad still is my best mentor. He said to me a long time ago, he said, if you want to play what you want to play, stay home in the basement.
Wow.
If you want to make money, you got to play what people want to play here.
Yeah.
Now, at the time, that was rough, you know, and as a jazz musician, it kind of goes counterproductive to what we as jazz musicians perceive ourselves to be.
Sure.
But there's a lot of truth to that. There really is a lot of truth to that. And so that in itself kind of drives for me everything, you know. I think about all of the years that I've worked to get the trio where I get. There are times I get phone calls and I just flat out say, I really thank you for calling me, but I can't do the performance, because it just doesn't fit within what we want to do. So again, there's gotta be that whiteboard up here that somehow stays with you, and you see it from the very time you started doing this, as you continue to do it, and hopefully the vision for where you see it going in the future. Because as much as when I get on the piano, it is about hopefully as spontaneous as I can be. And even that is hard as the leader of the group, you know. If you happen to look and you see the promoter kind of glaring at you, how do you stay focused in the music and not wonder, oh no, what happened? I mean, that in itself can totally, especially as a jazz musician, the improvisational side of things can just totally go away right away. So you have to build all kinds of different ways to make that work and hopefully make it work successfully. So yeah, I can't mention or can't stress enough that it really is about a plan. It really is. You know? Stephen
Covey says, begin with the end in mind. So you have to live it first and then go through the process of what you put on paper, what you put down, and what you said. I'm going to answer this question this way before the phone call comes, because then the negotiation is over.
Right. But and the other thing that keeps me very humble is that I'm only as good as my last gig, is another way to looking at it for me.
Sure.
You know, I'm thrilled that you've looked at my resume and you've looked at my bio, but that doesn't mount. Last night I played in a restaurant. I made some really great music with a great bass player, and that counts. That counts, you know? So it's not for me, okay, I'm playing in a restaurant versus Saturday night, I'm going to have all the eyes on me as my trio is performing. But for me, the music level is not going to be anything different. You know, from early on, if somebody hired the trio to do a wedding, it was are you hiring us because you know the Fred Hughes trio? You are? Oh, you've heard us play? And you want our music? Perfect. If somebody calls me and says, I'd like some jazz music, I'm thinking, yeah, it's probably not going to work good for us, you know? So again, it is about those choices. As you said earlier, it really is about those choices.
Man, that's very good right there. Let's talk about the Fred Hughes trio while we're here, because Amy Shook rocks me on that bass, man. Tell me about Amy, tell me about Fred. I want to hang up my drumsticks, but you know, I still got to play, but that brother rocks too. So tell me a little bit about the band.
Well, I'll start with Frank. Frank and I started playing together shortly after I came to the area in '89. He was in the Naval Academy band and I was in the Jazz Ambassadors. So we got the opportunity to play. And then somewhere around the mid-90s, shortly before I got out of the Jazz Ambassadors, we started playing together a lot. And then in '96, when I left, shortly after that, he joined and he's been on every record since then. And it's been, you know, I think the theme, I know the theme of the trio is that we're all enjoy making music together and we're friends on and off the stage. And I think that makes a lot, that helps a lot. But Frank and I have been able to grow since that amount of time together in the repertoire that we play, the way that we play it, how we interact together, what my expectations are, what his are. It's to the point now where I do something and all of a sudden, you know, my eyes are closed and he does it with me and, you know, we look at each other like, whoa. So there's that deepness of knowing each other so well on and off the stage that carries itself through with the music. So he knows what I'm doing. Amy and he were playing together in other groups before she joined the group. And when she joined the group, it just made sense. I mean, she's a phenomenal musician. She's a great improviser, and she's got such a great sound. I mean, the last two records, I didn't have to do anything to her bass. That's the sound that she gets out of her bass, whether it's plugged into the mixer or whether it's live. It's just a phenomenal instrument. So the two of them had been playing together, and it made sense now. He knows me, she knows him, and it all just worked and worked and worked, and it continues to grow. Very fortunate that pretty much there hasn't been anything, and I've asked some pretty goofy arrangements. I mean, some stuff that's going to make us all work really hard, and they're down for it. They're always there. So yeah, it's wonderful to have a situation where I'm not just going to work. I'm going to work with my family. I've got people that I know care about me, care about the music, and want to put it on that level for everybody to hear.
Well, it's a great trio, man. It works. You can tell the chemistry is there. There's a synergy that flows through it. And you're right, man. As a listener, and some of the videos that I've been able to observe for you and Frank just to flow off of each other, it's just like it's just an ocean, man. I love it. I love the sound.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that's probably to me, the biggest compliment is that when I see it in print or I'm talking to a person like you that says, I can feel that energy, I can feel that happiness coming through the recording. As you know, I mean, to get that, sometimes you think you're playing really good stuff on a recording, but to get all that extra stuff to come through to the person without them seeing it, that it's coming through the recording. To me, that's, hopefully, you know, we're doing what we're supposed to do. So
absolutely. Absolutely. Now let's go deeper still, because in the last interview we did, you talked about your grandmother taking you to church. It's an Assembly of God church. You talked about the soul and the heart that went into it. You talked about going on Sunday nights to some of those black churches that you can feel that now. We talked about your approach from a technical standpoint, but how much spirituality do you put into a Fred Hughes composition that you know is other? This is not what I learned. This is not from my book that you authored that worked so well for you. But this is Quincy Jones calls it leaving room for God to walk in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep. there's several other analogies I could use. I think one of the ones that I really heard recently that I liked was Itzhak Perlman talking about, I practice, and hopefully when I get on the stage, it's going to be just like I practiced. But what really makes the music come out is the fact that there's more people on stage with me that weren't in the practice room. And things are going to happen in a way that aren't going to be the way they were in the practice room. And it's going to make music in a way that's going to make me work in a way that I'd never thought of before. And sure, and I alluded to that before, is that, yeah, sometimes you get so emotional about that sometimes the technical side goes out. And as he put it, he said, well, you just got to let it come out because you got to go with the flow. Then you go back in the practice room and you fix that. So for me, it's about any time that I sit down at the piano, and there's a longer story there as to how I've arrived at what I do at the piano. But for me, it's about just getting rid of all the rest of it. Okay, I've practiced, I've done everything. When I get on the stage, it's about allowing all of that to flow, allowing that moment to really, really come through. And there are times that, you know, you just have to close your eyes. You know, every time I play Silent Night and Saturday night, my dad will be there. I'll think about my grandmother. There it is.
There it is. Understood. Thank you for going so deep with us, because we know that music is spirit and that it transcends the 12 notes that you're going to convey. And every chord is going to mean something. So I thank you for going deep with me.
Well, thank you for asking. I mean, how do you practice that? I mean, that for me is, I actually try and put myself, when I'm practicing, in that space that I'm going to be. Again, that going back to what Itzhak Perlman said, is putting myself in that space that I almost get emotional in my practice routine, that, you know, allowing all of those feelings and things to come through, because at the moment, you just don't know what's going to happen.
Absolutely.
You know, I know I couldn't be a vocalist because there are times when I get so emotional. I mean, I listen to a great vocalist and I'm like, I'm crying. I'm like, how are you singing this song without having this emotion come through you that, you know, yeah, that's the whole other thing. But yeah, I mean, that, and it's not something that I consciously think about. I like to think it's the way I live. I mean, it's the way that you approach everything.
My goodness. Now, tell me, there was a question that you hoped that I would ask at some point, whether this conversation or the last one we had, and I didn't ask it, and you're like, oh man, Jere, I hope you asked me this question. What is the answer to that unknown question?
It really isn't. I mean, to me, it's exactly what I just said about the music. I try to never go into any of these things with an agenda or any thought process. I hope when I start it that I'm going to be able to answer the questions in a way that helps someone else through my experiences. That's all I can ask. So thank you for asking some great questions, because that's what needed to be asked. I mean, I know that sounds like an easy answer and a spiritual answer and all that, but that's the only answer I have, is that because I don't approach any of these type of interviews with anything other than I'm going to be honest and hopefully be able to help somebody that might need help. I'm always approaching it as like, okay, Jere's going to say something that's going to make me go, oh man, I need to work on that. I need to think about that. So it's a two-way street, my friend. It's a two-way street.
Well, I'm grateful, really. I know that this conversation is going to lead to many more, whether we're on camera or not. I'm so grateful. Since the Trish Hennessy radio broadcast, when we were on her show, and just having that few minutes of dialogue, I think it was on text afterwards, like you said, instant messenger, however we did it, I don't remember. But to begin this process of building this community of EntreMusicians, because there are hundreds of thousands of us out here who have the same challenges, same concerns, same accomplishments from various levels, but at the same time, we're saying, okay, you know, as we look from this standpoint, 25 years from now, when we're sitting out on the beach, you know, and we're in our retirement gear, but we have these young minds coming up. How can we mentor them? What can we share with them from what we've learned that hopefully can help? And in this ever-changing industry, because it's changing all the time. We talked about that in the last conversation. How do we navigate these changes? Because I want to be playing in my 70s. I want to still have my sticks. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And I want to still be able to contribute to this thing called music. But it's every day. It's a daily flow. And how do I stay above the current trends to remain relevant? It's an amazing life.
It is. It is. Like I said, I don't know anything else to do. I really don't. The only thing that I would like to add to that is that sometimes we all, and I'm guilty of it myself, is that we get so narrow-minded about how we get from point A to point B that we forget to, A, like I said, how did the last two records get where they are is because I put together a team. And you have to trust other folks to come into your orb. Yeah. And as jazz musicians, I think we're probably some of the most
obstinate.
Thank you. Good word. Good word. Yes.
I've been there.
Is that we think we're an island, that we got it all figured out more than anybody else, and we forget that we're all doing this together. And if we don't help each other out on it, we're just not going to get anywhere.
You're absolutely
that's the part that sometimes I think we all forget about.
You're absolutely right. And, you know, community, conversation, collaboration, you know, I'm not talking musically, I'm talking about of our minds, of our experiences, and just coming together and going, hey, this may be a greater thing, but if I can't hear you because I think I have it figured out, then I'm not going to move ahead.
Yep. And like I said, I mean, I'd like to think that when you asked me the question earlier about, did you ask the question that I was hoping that you would ask, you know, going into those situations of not having an agenda and seeing where we all as a community are and where we can all go together. And again, maybe it's just because I've been doing it for so long that occasionally I walk into the room and you can feel this thing that's there that I'm like, yeah, this is not me. And so I quietly observe, learn, and move from there. Yeah.
That's excellent. Well, I so appreciate the time that you've given me today. And in our last conversation, I so wish you and yours a very, very Merry Christmas, a blessed New Year. You got to end this conversation with giving us a peek of what Fred Hughes is doing in 2019. So come on with it.
Well, the whiteboard is still it's not sure which way it wants to go on that one. I know what I need to do, again, from the lesson that I learned about what I had done with the last two records and what I learned 3 weeks ago when we played in Memphis, is that, okay, maybe reaching into that pocketbook to go deeper than you really thought is not something you were prepared to do right now. You just kind of wanted to sit back. No, there's something else that needs to go out there. People are asking for it, so you just have to do it. We've got at least 2 records already ready to go in stuff that we've been playing, so I just need to decide where I'm going to go with that. But yeah, that's where it is that I think by the end of the year, there's definitely going to be another record out, at least 1, if not 2. And Jere, it's been my honor to talk with you. I'm glad that we finally had a chance to do this. You know, I keep watching what you're doing. You're sending me this stuff, and I love reading it, man. It's great. I mean, keep on keeping on. It's wonderful, and very Merry Christmas to you and yours as well.
My brother and friend, peace and blessings to you and to yours, man. Lancaster, PA, Ohio. I mean, yo, brothers in arms. This is the incomparable Fred Hughes. I'm so grateful that he's joined me today. So grateful for the knowledge and wisdom that you shared. My name is Jere B. I am the EntreMusician. Fred is the EntreMusician, and so are you. Have an incredible time. We'll see you next time. Blessings to you.